There's something else I want us to take a look at. I was going to show you what the actual speaker, the real speaker, let me put it this way, said immediately after, in the aftermath of that event. But we're going to skip that now. Let's just go to that man. The man, he's called Chidi Lloyd. That's the man who was wielding the mace and using the mace, if you remember now, the mace to beat one of the lawmakers or one of his colleagues when they got into the house and met the five sitting. His name is Chidi Lloyd, and he's the majority leader of the Rivers State House of Assembly. I want us to take a listen to what he said, because what he said, we're going to connect with what should I say the self-acclaimed speaker now would be saying, or the purported speaker. Let's take a listen to Chidi Lloyd and hear what he had to say about what happened, what actually happened.
For some time now, we have not been sitting. So the speaker directed that the House will be reconvened today, the 9th of July. To that effect, the speaker directed that the clerk of the House do apply to the Commissioner of Police to provide security for members who will come to sit today. He also applied to the brigade commander, who incidentally is in charge of the JTF. Then this morning we all arrived for sitting. No sooner the speaker came in, the usual camaraderie between colleagues started, some haven't seen themselves since this whole empire started. I was on my seat as the House leader. I greeted my friend and brother Evans Bebe, and his response was an uppercut. You can see my face here. Sporadically he was throwing punches at me, but in all that I did not respond. So when the speaker, other members held him, it was at that point he went and broke the tripod that the camera stands on. He came back to me and flogged me freely with it, which gave rise to the blood stains on my body. And he also attacked Honorable Azubike Njoko and the speaker.
Well, you just heard the account of the majority leader of the Rivers State House of Assembly. He was the one we saw in that video who was actually using the mace to attack one of his colleagues. Now, you heard this account. Let us hear this video. The next video we're going to show you, it clearly showed the speaker. You need to be very attentive. You need to listen to it attentively. Showed the speaker trying to describe to his friends and colleagues outside the State House of Assembly what exactly transpired on the floor of the House when they met. Take a listen to him.
Stop the recording.
Well, there you just heard it. I mean, let me just paraphrase what the speaker said there. He said, well, that I went to Chidi Lloyd and said, you, Chidi Lloyd, I hit him. I'm using his language now, that he hit him and then turned to another lawmaker and that he also gave him a blow. I mean, let me get your reaction, Dr. Naji. This is quite, and that's the video we did not see. That's the video, what the speaker, what that Honorable Evans BP was trying to describe there. We do not have that video, but that is exactly what happened earlier. That's exactly what precipitated that attack we saw in on the floor of the House.
Which was what one of the honorable members was also saying, that he greeted somebody and the person.
Yeah, and it was Evans BP. That's
yes.
yeah.
So for him to have made that statement himself in a more relaxed atmosphere, perhaps giving himself kudos for a job well done, showed that he probably may have been the instigator of all that, at least the physical things that started happening. It's unfortunate that even if you start examining the whole thing legally, you begin to look at the proportion of force, self-defense and things like that. But something made pim before you had boom. So if you have to look at how the whole thing started, because if a small thing was dropped and started snowballing, the proportionality theory may no longer be so much the issue in the public domain. That is an issue of legalism. But no matter how small the cost may have been, being political, it had the capacity of being blown out of proportion, especially by jobbers, because there's so much hunger in the land, and so many people want to show each group, that depending on the one they decided to camp with, that they are actually they were in the front of the entire melee. So I think for that man to now come back in that particular forum to begin to
describe
describe in a pontification of his act, it simply showed that the whole thing was premeditated.
Let me get your reaction, Mr. Albani.
Yeah, clearly I agree with him. It was a premeditated action. The House was to reconvene on that day, and they planned how to attack. And then they also planned how to impeach the Speaker. And after impeaching the Speaker, the next target is the Governor. And they will also, by the 5 members,
and I was going to ask you, do you think this whole thing was just...
It's just targeting at the Governor.
Was just about the Speaker, or
no, it's about the
target is the Governor?
No, the target is the Governor. You could hear him say that his anger is that the Governor, a whole Governor came to the House and then supervised the beating of a member of the House. You could see him say that. And so the target is actually the Governor. It was an action that was planned, but as Dr. Naji has rightly pointed out, there was no intelligence in execution of this plan. There is no intelligence whatsoever. They give themselves away. You could see him boast that he was the first person to initiate the attack, that he hit Chidi Lloyd and then hit another member. And that is a self-confessional statement, and that is very incriminating. Yes. And so if police also, who say they're investigating this matter, is doing this, they must take all this into account and into consideration in arriving as to who is actually, guilty in the whole imbroglio. And so that we apportion blame, and then those who are supposed to be prosecuted ought to be prosecuted in this. And I'm looking forward to seeing certain action being taken by the security agencies, concerning what took place in the Rivers State House of Assembly.
And I have to ask you this very quick question now.
Yes.
Would you be surprised if at the end of the day, say by next week now, we see these 5 lawmakers regroup and say they were serving impeachment process to the Governor?
Well, as Energy has said before, nothing surprises me any longer in this country. It's a country that anything can happen. Everything is almost possible here, even illegality, even absurdity, even bizarre things. So when there are people who are backing you, and as I said earlier, if there is no condemnation by the highest court in this country, so what do you expect? Impunity we must exercise in this nation. And if Nigeria must be on the path to progress and development, everyone must rise up and condemn impunity and ensure that their impunity should not be allowed at any point in time. So what is going on is that these guys are doing this, with the backing from somewhere. There is a drummer that is beating this drum from the bush, and the dancers are only, actors, doing the beating. But the point is, we must condemn this, and we must not allow these people to go beyond this level.
And of course, we are the spectators.
Yeah, we are the spectators. If we allow them to regroup and say they want to impeach the Governor, and that will be the day that this country will be on the verge to collapse. I am saying it here with every amount of seriousness. If they do, go ahead after all the condemnation of this, and when many people have gotten so angry about this, and they go ahead to do this, then I think that this will be the end of this our democracy.
Deji, I want to add here that I wouldn't want to be in a haste to attribute what is happening in Rivers State to Jonathan. Professor Wole Soyinka used the word vicarious liability. Okay, to that extent, in law, we know that if you
that's what he said.
If you're an employer of somebody who has gone to do something that is even outside what you advise him to do, you will be held responsible. To that extent, fine. But it behoves the presidency and even the president to make sure that it comes out clean by the right action or reaction to what is happening or what has happened to clean itself.
Do you think that the reaction we've gotten from the president so far, because we had Ruben Abati, his spokesperson, come out to say, well, the president is not involved. He actually issued a statement. You think that statement was enough?
Deji, I have, in many fora, I have said that many of the president's men are not doing a wonderful job. You see, when you want to respond to certain things, you have to think through the communication you are giving out. You gauge the mood. Yes, it is okay to say that the presidency was not involved and all that, but they need to do more. Because some people who don't like the president could even have exacerbated what has happened, or what happened in Rivers State, to give the president, especially given the 2015 election project. You understand? So the duty, therefore, is on the presidency and the president to do more to exorcise itself of the ghost of perhaps the attribution of what is happening in Rivers State. So the duty is so much on the presidency to say, enough of this impunity. Even the president himself suffered a lot of what do I call it now? Maltreatment, that brought even the doctrine of necessity, because to every reasoning person, you wouldn't imagine that Nigeria would have been brought to that level where what is written expressly will be contested. But as God pleased, it pleased God, we were able to go through that. And the president on his own said, never again will it, under his own watch, happen to anybody, including his own vice president. So this particular instance, I'm not taking any position. I'm not interested in whether it is Amechi that is governor or, because anybody could be there. The principle is that when you are in position of authority, you must follow the rule of law. Even if I say you are a bad man, before I kill you, I must follow the due process. And if I have to be so stupid, I must therefore do it clinically, so that people will be clapping that, after all, I'm a very nice man to have finally killed you the way I did it. That means there's more being intelligent. But this one is so gutter, is so depraved, is so warped. And the people that have been chosen to do this job by whoever who did this, I mean, that person
didn't choose well.
Himself lacks content. And even the context in which it is done was bad.